Hello everyone, how y'all doing? So today I hope this will be a quick video because I'm essentially just going to share my overall kind of first impressions on this web browser called OperaGX. A browser that I've seen getting shilled like several times from several content creators that I've personally never used because this was always a Windows exclusive thing. They did finally port this to Linux, but to be honest with you, and I'll explain this a little bit more why I don't really see myself using this web browser for various reasons. But one thing I did find to be a little bit funny was that when they did announce this was finally available on Linux, I saw a lot of tweets from people being like, nobody asked for this. Literally nobody asked for this, which by the way, that's bullshit. People definitely did ask for this browser to be ported to Linux. Now, if you didn't see people, that's fine. I definitely did. I 100% like throughout the years, I've definitely seen people asking for Opera X to be ported to Linux. I've also seen a lot of tweets from people making fun of Opera GX for not porting this to Linux. And so it's definitely not true that people didn't ask for this. People definitely did. Now, initially, it was only available as like a deb and RPM package. So if you're on Fedora, Ubuntu, Debian, and I guess OpenSUSE, then you're all Gucci. If you're on Arch, I think there's an AUR package, but it's not official. But now there is a Flatpak, and this one actually is official. Now, even just from this page over here, there's already this part here. This part right here is already my biggest red flag, but I'll get to that in a few moments. Now let me launch this, and what the hell? I just heard a sound. I'm already not liking it all that much. What is this? Help improve Opera by sending features usage information. No thanks, my guy. Overall, make Opera GX yours. I mean, sure, I guess. Make Opera GX yours. Background, none. I definitely do not want background. Browser sounds, nope. Keyboard sounds, nope. Discord integration, yeah, I don't think so. See, this is the thing about Opera GX is that I feel like this appeals to gamers a lot, and look, I guess I'm a gamer, but like my browser use cases are very simple. I don't really need to overcomplicate the way I use my browser by integrating all of this stuff. I don't even want to sign into Discord, to be honest with you. Set up your inventory. So there's WhatsApp, Messenger, Twitter, and yeah, like as you can see here, it actually shows that it does end up creating this little mini tab here, which again, I can see how this would be convenient to some people. Oh, I can import bookmarks. I have I'm fairly certain you can also import passwords. I don't really care. Now here it says ad blocker, and I'll have to check this later. But zero ads block on this page. Thank you. GX Cleaner. This kind of reminds me of one of those like cache cleaner apps for mobiles that like you used to install with the expectation that it was suddenly gonna make your phone run faster, which never really exactly did. Help us connect to the dots. What if I don't want to answer any of this? Okay, I don't have to. So there's also a phone app which I don't want to install. Enjoy the internet from your own. It's still doing the sound effects though. Like I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can definitely hear. Hey look, there's a player. Oh, this is where it opens SoundCloud. Interesting. History, extensions. Now, I think, or at least I assume that this is based off of Chromium. I wonder if there's a way I can check this. I'll say one thing though. If this really is based off of Chromium, one thing I will give them credit for is that in terms of the UI, they definitely did make this much more unique than other Chrome-based browsers. Like even Brave, generally speaking, it's essentially, I mean, I'm not one of those people that say that Brave is essentially just Chrome, which is not true. Brave actually does do a lot of modifications to, wait, I just select this? What if I want to, okay, there it is. Brave actually does make a bunch of modifications to the Chromium engine that actually does make it a fundamentally different, like maybe not like entirely a different browser, but like it's definitely not true that it's basically just Chrome with a different paint. That's not true. Anyone that says that I don't think they've done enough research. Now what I mainly wanted to see here is, okay, here it is. I bought Opera. Yeah, it is based off of Chromium. Now, what would be the best way to test the ad blocking capabilities? That would be through YouTube. which is hilarious because I'm uploading this to YouTube and I'm showing you whether or not this can actually block ads. Now, something that has ads, I don't know. What does have ads? I don't know. Let's type Z, Penguin Zero. I'm sure he has ads on his videos, or at least I assume he has. Okay. Uh, no ads so far. Let's type. Let's press this one. No ads. One ad block from this page. Does it actually show which ads are blocking? There's got to be a way to show. Oh, you can also block trackers. That's interesting. I mean, so far it doesn't seem like it's playing any ads. Like, okay, let's try a different content creator, someone who I know for a fact has ads. Though I don't know because I use YouTube Premium, so I actually don't know. Like, I don't know. Let's type some ordinary gamers. Maybe he has ads. I'm not entirely sure. Experiencing interruptions. Find out. Okay, this notification here does actually make me believe the ad blocker is actually working. So I'll give them credits for that. It definitely does seem like the ad blocking, at least for YouTube, it actually works. Now, presumably there's also a like VPN service that you can enable. Now, the thing is, I did look up online and apparently this may not actually be a VPN. It's more like a proxy server, or at least the default one. Cause like, if this really was a VPN, I don't know if they would actually allow this to run for free. So yeah, from what I've looked up online, it seems like more like a proxy server more so than an actual VPN. But regardless, I'll say this. Personally speaking, this browser doesn't interest me because really just for one reason is just because this browser is proprietary. And honestly, like, here's the thing: even if you're not an open source purist, which I don't consider myself an open source purist, but I am someone who kind of leans more towards the idea that, like, if I can get away with using an open source alternative, then I would rather go with that. And it's for the same logic, for example, why I use AMD graphics more than NVIDIA. It's not out of some like preference for AMD necessarily, because at the end of the day, they're just GPU vendors. It really doesn't matter to me all that much which one I pick. But whether or not their drivers are open source does actually determine which GPU I might be more inclined to buy, because if the GPU that I buy allows me to rely largely, not entirely, because obviously things like the firmware and stuff like that is still going to be proprietary, but just the overall, the graphics drivers, the Vulkan drivers, and some of the technology that they use, if a lot of that is open source, then to me that tends to be more appealing than just relying on proprietary software. Especially if you're in an open source environment like Linux, where you do benefit from using open source beyond just, oh, you know, open source is like more Puritan. It's not even just about that. Even just in terms of just the overall maintaining this in long term, because like when you have proprietary code, a lot of the times you do tend to become a lot more beholden on the actual software vendors. Meanwhile, if something is open source, people can fork it, people can debug it. It's just overall much more beneficial to an open source environment than relying on proprietary software. And that's kind of the impression that I get with Opera GX. Now, of course, Opera GX is based off of an open source engine, so not all of it is proprietary necessarily. But honestly, I think it's proprietary enough, which is at all. Like, it doesn't matter which portions of the software is open source or not. If the fact of the matter is, it is proprietary. And meanwhile, Brave isn't proprietary, and so I would much rather use that. And in terms of some of the privacy benefits, I feel like Brave probably offers that more than Opera GX, if I'm being honest, especially because with Brave, you can actually verify like a lot of the ad blocking and privacy respecting extensions that comes built with Brave. You can actually look at the source code of that. I think it's even available in some repositories. You can actually download them. I think they're in Python or something like that. Like, that to me is much more. It's much more reassuring from a privacy perspective than Opera GX, at least in my opinion. Additionally, like this gamer aesthetic, like I can see this appealing to a lot of people, but to me, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Like, to be honest with you, this is come across as a little bit bloated. Like, I don't need my web browser to be more complicated than it currently is, and so while I'm sure for a lot of people this is like really appealing, and I know people that use Opera GX, but it's not for me personally. I don't really vibe with this. That's why after I'm done recording this, I'm probably just gonna end up uninstalling this. But I felt like it was at least worth it to check it out and kind of share my overall impressions, because Opera GX is a browser that's like very controversial. Some of it I think is because people are annoyed by the social media marketing campaign that Opera GX has. People find it to be very obnoxious. But I have also seen some allegations of this being Chinese spyware, which, honestly, a lot of that Chinese spyware stuff, I don't know. Here's the thing. Even if this is Chinese spyware, it's like, bro, you're probably using Google Chrome. You're probably using Microsoft Windows. Like, you are trapped in American spyware all throughout. So, and also, like, if you're really that concerned about Chinese spyware, if you use Discord, you do realize that Discord is owned by a Chinese company. And so I don't know, like this whole accusation of like being Chinese spyware, and some of it I feel like is based on stuff that I don't even think is entirely accurate. Like, I think I remember there was this one video someone uploaded that showed that like that Opera was like I think they showed evidence using some kind of like some like packet sniffer that showed that um the browser was collecting your geolocation. The only thing is, I've done that exact test, and I did not see Opera collecting my geolocation at all. It wasn't on this build. I think I tested it on Windows actually, and yeah, it was not collecting my geolocation. So that person that uploaded that video was probably using Opera GX while it had the VPN enabled. Which, yeah, of course, obviously, if you're using VPN, it's going to collect your geolocation. That's it has to, in order to connect you to a different IP address. And so I don't know, and I don't mean to say this to like make people, because here's the thing, I'm happy people are privacy conscious. I'm glad that people are very skeptical of the software that they use potentially collecting your data and sending to other people. I'm glad people are conscious of that. Don't get me wrong, and you know, I'm glad people even have that mentality in the first place. I just think that it seems to be a little bit overblown with Opera GX, because the thing is, I don't even necessarily disagree with the idea that, hey, this being proprietary means that you don't fully know where your data is going, and how much of your data is being collected, and because of that, I think it might make more sense for you to use something more privacy respecting like Brave. And I agree. I think that makes sense. But the whole Chinese spyware thing is like, bro, you're using Discord. Like, if you're playing like Valorant, like, these things are owned by Chinese companies. Like, if you're playing anything from Tencent, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of a little bit too late to worry about spyware, especially if you're also using Google Chrome, which, like, let's be fucking honest with you, Google is probably collecting way more of your data than Opera ever will. But that's just my own perspective. Again, I think it's nice that they finally ported this to Linux. I personally am probably not going to use this until they decide to open source this, which I don't think they will, because at the end of the day, this is owned by Opera, so I do not have high hopes for that. But anyway, that's all I wanted to share.